of science as some kind of like foundational thing.
This is why I'm trying to figure out what you believe, because you say I got a problem with Christians that are in denial of science, but then you make it sound like evolution, as far as macro, is part of science, but then you don't believe it. So I don't know. I kind of don't know where you're at.
I believe it. I said in the very beginning. There is a difference between initial creation of life and then the ongoing propagation.
So you do believe in macroevolution.
I believe in all types of evolution.
Right, but then you said that you do not believe that we come from single-celled organisms, that God made a fully functional man. You see how both of those statements cannot coexist? He did say that.
I don't know. I'm saying like this is where the conundrum is, and this is where we all have to come to an understanding.
No. All right. Listen, I'm sorry.
It's not an either or. It's a both.
No.
Both of those things can exist.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on, okay, brother? No disrespect. You're not ready for this conversation.
So can I speak now? Yes.
Yep. Give me a second. We went around for several minutes, and your answer is literally yes, no. Yes, no. How can I have a conversation with that, brother? I believe in macroevolution, but I also believe God didn't bring us from a single-celled organism, that he made people fully functional. And it can be both. I can't have a conversation like that. You have no standard.
Let's say evolution, right? Or the Great Flood. Why all these pyramids in the Americas are now under dirt, even though they existed at the same time as Jesus?
What do you mean in the dirt?
Hey, brother.
That's it.
What? Yeah.
There was when there's a flood, right? Soil rise and everything, gets underground. Why all these pyramids around Latin America, if you want to call it?
Pyramids are all over the world because people built them. So there, I answered your question very directly. Where are we going?
I say Americas, not the world.
Yeah, people built them. No matter where they're at, wherever the pyramids are at, people built them. That's why they're there.
They are now under the dirt, though. If there's a great flood, and why all these people never saw a great flood in the first place?
I don't know what do you mean? What is that question? I don't understand your question.
The question Christianity itself.
Every religion has a great flood.
Equation Christianity itself.
So the pyramids in the Americas were built after the flood, brother, not before.
After the flood, so that was what, 2,000 years ago?
No, it's like 4,400 years ago. It's when the flood was.
By that time, humans were not even here.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, brother. Do you have anything on the prompt you'd like to talk about? Because we're kind of not going.
I am, but you are here trying to make seem less.
All right.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, brother? You doing all right?
Just have a quick point to raise.
Sure.
I'm Christian,
okay,
but I also believe in evolution. My problem with most Christians is that we see everything black and white. It has to be one or the other. And you limit yourself and your understanding of the world when you do that. So I love science, and you believe in viruses.
Yeah.
Viruses aren't exactly living things, but what viruses do, they can inject DNA or RNA into an organism, and through time cause that organism to go through mutation and change. And that, in a sense, is evolution. It's random. That's the beauty of God.
It's also never been observed to be beneficial. It's always, every time we observe it, it's degrading. So that would not be evolution.
There's has been wolves and many other predators who, before used to be a land.
All right. I'm sorry. I got rid of him. So when those viruses interject DNA, or those, like you just mentioned, it's called, there's called ERVs.
That's not always true. Every outcome of virus is not detrimental.
Do you have an example of one that's testable and observable, that's not inferred, of them being beneficial?
In humans, I can't, but in plants, I can. There are viruses that only attack humans. There are viruses that only attack animals. There are viruses that only attack plants.
Right. So
as we study, as we learn, we see the differences, and that's the beauty of mutation. It's random. The mutation change can do nothing. It can be beneficial, it can be detrimental.
I got you. I don't need
That's
you.
why
I got it.
evolution
I don't need you to walk through
works the way it
evolution,
does.
brother. I got you. I don't need you to walk through evolution with me. I just need to get to the examples so we can see if what you're saying is factually accurate or not.
Look,
So-
man, I don't have my computer in front of me. If you want to pull up sources, I understand, but we're on TikTok. We're just having a conversation.
I
have
got you.
sources on hand.
No, I got you. So you brought up one, which was a virus going into plants, right?
Mhm.
All right, so I'll check that out. Let's see.
Why don't you look up a type of virus called a bacteriophage? There's a virus known as bacteriophages that only attack bacteria, and is actually beneficial to humans. Actually,
It wasn't testable and observable.
yes,
It was.
we actually have used bacteriophages to actually benefit us.
Well, yeah, us using it, that's different. Us making medicine is not the same as a virus going out there in the wild, infecting us, and then making it something beneficial. Us making medicine out of it and then using that is not the same.
Can I ask you another side question? How old do you think the Earth is?
Have
Just
no
out of
idea.
curiosity.
If I was
4.5 billion.
if
No,
I
I'm asking the host.
if I was to put a number on it, which I would know, I would say that
Nobody really knows, but let's just see. What
yeah, I would go with the Bible. So I would say it's less than 15,000 years. That's what I would say.
Oh, dude, come on! You can't do that, dude. We found civilizations older than
No,
that.
you haven't. It's the dating techniques that you're using. So see, this
Have
is
you?
this.
Okay.
No. This is my
How they
this
dated?
this is my problem. This is my problem. When I talk to evolutionists, y'all shotgun, right? You throw 15 million different things up against the wall because you don't have a knowledge on one specific thing. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you don't. So when you say something, you just add it like it's a fact and then you run away from it. And then I'm left only responding to a couple of things and I promise you, your radiometric dating techniques, I can slaughter those. They don't work. They have to come up with other fields of science in an effort to make them work because we know that they
What
don't
is
work.
your discipline that makes you so certain that this is incorrect?
Doesn't matter. You can argue with
It doesn't matter.
Oh my God.
You're making the claim.
I don't care from an argument from authority, guys. I don't care. I don't care. I just started. I know I'm starting to get already frustrated. I do not care from your argument from authority. If you make a claim, you're going to have to support the claim. You can argue with my points or you can't. It doesn't matter if I'm a NASA scientist or a homeless bum. Argue with my points, not my education level. If you have to go attack my education level, you've already lost the debate.
Okay, we're not trying to. I wasn't going to attack your education level, sir.
All right, what you got?
What I did want to talk about is when you say how they date and you don't trust that.
Yeah.
One of the techniques that they use is similar to a pole that's hollow in the center. So, and just to give you an example of how they read it. So you know how you can tell how old a tree is by the rings?
No, that's not true at all. That's called wiggle matching.
You can tell if you cut a tree, a big tree, you can tell how old that tree is by the rings.
No, you can't.
Immutable fact.
No, it's not. That's called wiggle matching. It's one of the fields of science that they added in an effort to help prop up carbon-14 because it doesn't work. That field of science that you're referring to is called wiggle matching. Those rings are gross.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Ma'am,
about geology.
Ma'am, those
I'm talking
rings,
about geology.
ma'am, those rings that you're referring to in the trees, okay? Those do not represent seasons or about how old something is. It represents growth, not seasons. Growth. You understand? So do you know that
Based
some
on how long it takes something you can track growth. Based on how long it takes
let
something
me
to grow,
let me ask you a
can
question.
tell
Let me ask
that
you a
each of
question.
those rings
Stop,
is an
stop,
age.
stop,
But
stop,
that's not-
stop. Nope. Can a tree put on 4 growth rings in a single season? Has it been documented?
No.
All right. Thank you. Go look that up and then come back when you're more educated. Absolutely ridiculous. What's wrong with y'all today? Are y'all okay? Y'all just
So is that the same thing with rocks?
Y'all just-
when you destroy into the side of a cliffside and you can see the different layering of sediment over time?
you think those are years?
It could be seen as years. It is a way of measuring time.
No, it's not. The geologic column predated that. So the geologic column literally added those dates to it. You can look it up. They didn't have a scientific method. So they literally added all of those dates by how old they thought it took to add that sediment there. So, and then we know that that's called hydrologic sorting. We see that in a flood. So we would say that all of those
Not
layers,
just from a flood, but from the Earth's crust grinding against itself, that leaves behind that sedative.
the
Which
layers,
is how we can tell that the ground ages and that each tectonic plate is a different age compared to its neighboring tectonic.
no,
This is how we
No,
were
you
able
can't.
to come up with the concept of Pangea.
no, that's not what? No, that's not true at all, brother.
It is.
No,
We use the crust of Africa and the crust of South America
yeah,
and could see visually where they were once held together.
yes,
And
that
we could then predict that they slid across
Guy,
thousands of
guy,
miles.
stop. What we're doing now, and I'm not trying to get frustrated, but are y'all okay today? What's going on with y'all? You literally just stated that these grind together and we can tell their age, and that's how we come up with Pangea. And I said, no, that's not how you come up with Pangea. And then you change the argument in real time to say it's the shapes. That part's true. But the first part that you said is not true.
And how is it not true?
Because
it is a
you
part
can't-
of the science that we use
Because
to
you
discover.
can't grind rocks and then tell how old they are by the grinding of those rocks, is what you claimed. That's not true at all.
Yes, when two tectonic plates rub against each other, if you were to look in between the
All right.
piece of in between those two tectonics,
Yeah.
you will see layers of grinding and sliding.
Uh-huh.
As much as proven scientifically.
Okay. So how can you look at those grinding and sliding and determine how old it is?
Well, one way is by pumping oil. When you send down that pipe and you can see the different rock that you're digging into, you take readings of this. That's one way. Sonar is another. When you go to detect something at the bottom of the sea against the curve of a tectonic plate, you can see this
Okay.
in the sonar.
All right, brother. I think you're
We
just
have sent robots down there to scrape and scrap up material that is off the side of tectonic plates. So we know that this rock came from somewhere else, but it got stuck onto this tectonic plate.
Is that what it
You
is?
can see the grinding, you can see the leveling throughout the years.
All right.
This is all scientific.
Okay, man. I appreciate you coming. Thank you, man. What's wrong with these people today? I don't get it. Y'all can't stick on one thing. Stay on one thing. Ugh.
You like to change the subject?
It doesn't matter if we can stay on the subject. If you're able to follow and stop saying this weird stuff, that's not part of anything. He said we can tell by the grinding of the rocks. When they grind together, they make this, debris field and of grinding and sliding. I said, okay, how can you age that? Well, we drill oil. What? Guys, you got to be able to have a conversation. Stop being weird.
My question is, what do you think about the 66 books in the Bible, and the Ethiopian Bible is a much older than the King James, and it includes like the Book of Jubilee and Enoch, etc.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the Roman Catholic Church was the one that decided how many books would go into it. And the Anunnaki are in the Book of Jubilees, which they claimed created us.
Right. Okay.
But
So
what's your thought on that?
yeah, so the church did not decide what books of the Bible was going to be put in there. So there was no one authority in Christianity that said these books are going to be put in, these books are going to be taken out. Now you can say that after we got Catholics and then you had the Protestant split over Old Testament, that's a different argument. But as far as the 66 canonical books that nobody disagree with, those things we already know, right? Because we know what the Christians had and what they copied, right? So no one individual got together and said, this is what the Bible is going to be. The Bible was considered canonical before any church fathers got together at any council. So it was just basically the early Christians knew what the Bible was, because we know that that's what they copied, right? So it's not true to say that any one individual decided what was going in or out of the Bible. Now, you do have different places like the Ethiopians that have added different books like Enoch and stuff like that. But we know that they're not correct because Enoch is Old Testament, right? And we know for a fact that the Jews did not consider Enoch canonical. They carried it around, they copied it, they thought it was a very important book to have, but they did not consider it to be scripture. So it would be no different than you today. You have these books that you might think is important, and forgive the slide here, but let's imagine that you like Harry Potter. So you carried around Harry Potter with you, and you had the Bible, right? And then you unalived, and 2,000 years, somebody comes up and digs up where you're at, and they see that you have the Bible and Harry Potter. Okay, but that doesn't mean Harry Potter is now part of the Bible. It just means that you liked Harry Potter, so you also read it too. You read it as part of something fun to read, and you thought it was very important to you, but it wasn't scripture. That's the same thing with the Book of Enoch and some of these other canonical books, or non-canonical books, excuse me. They were important, and the Jews carried them, but they was not part of and we know this because they wasn't part of the Torah, they wasn't part of the Psalms, they wasn't part of the prophets. So we know that the Jews did not consider it to be scripture.
Thanks for the answer. And I think you do a good job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Before we pivot too far to a different subject, I wanted to go back to the subject of the age of the earth.
Okay.
Now, when God created man, he created man pre-aged.
Yes.
Right? He didn't make a tiny boy. He didn't make a tiny single cell.
Right.
He made a man fully aged.
Right.
So when he created earth, there is no way to know whether or not, and we could argue that he made it pre-aged as well.
Of course he did. Yeah, of course he did. He made like lead, and we know that lead is a byproduct of radiation. So naturally, if you have lead, then they would say that it's billions of years old because we have lead. But obviously, I believe that he made lead already. So I would agree with you that he made it with age. Absolutely.
That was my only comment. So to argue that Earth is hundreds of millions of years old or 6,000 years old is kind of irrelevant to me because he could have made it pre-age.
Well, that's the problem that I had with old buddy is we kept moving on. He made a claim that we have observed viruses going into plants and adding information. And I wanted to talk about that so I at least could look up to see if I could help verify his claim, because I don't know any of that. But he kept wanting to move on so much that I couldn't nail him down on one thing. And so age of the earth, the radiometric dating techniques that they use are you always have to use the same three assumptions in every radiometric dating technique. One, you have to assume the parent material. You have to know how much was in it to compare how much is left in it. Then you have to know the decay rate has to remain constant. And then you have to assume that it's in a closed system, that none of the material is leaching in. We know for a fact that the last one is not true. There's not a closed system here on the planet, right? We have leaching all over the place. Thank you guys for the stickers. So we know that it's not a closed system. I would grant you the second one of radiometric decay. I would grant you that and say that that's absolutely constant, even though we've only been observing it for 100 years, and the radiometric decay rate in everything past carbon-14 is in the billions of years. Thank you for the stickers. And you want me to believe that we know that it remains constant because we've only been observing it for 100 years when the half-life is over 1 billion? I don't think so, but I'll even grant you that. But the first one, there's no way you can know the parent material of the item that you're dating.
Well, there is one thing that's constant, is that every single time with atheists, over time, they change their method of determining the age, and they always come up with a different number. Sometimes it's 6 million years old, other times it's 100 million years old. So that part has remained constant.
Thank you. I'm with all the gift giving, guys, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. I haven't really addressed it, but anything given to my channel here, I'm going to put back into the channel and try to make it better. Maybe new monitors later or mics or something, make myself look more professional, whatnot. So I do appreciate the stickers and the gifts, guys. I'll put it back into what I'm doing here.
In regards to the Bible versions, I think the only one that makes the most sense to me as the most accurate is the manuscripts that derive from the Textus Receptus.
Amen, bro.
That's the one that has the most copies out of all of them, and that kind of all confirm each other.
Yeah, so they come from the Byzantine, and the Byzantine make up the majority text principle. Byzantine later went into the Textus Receptus, and the Textus Receptus went into the King James Version of the Bible. So I would agree 100% with you. The newer Bible versions, guys, what we're talking about is if you get a newer Bible version like an NIV or even the New King James or something like that, they're going off of the Alexandrian manuscripts, and that's a problem. So what happened is the Alexandrian manuscripts are older, right? They are older than the Byzantine, but they're not. They're older in the fact that they survived, and they survived because they wasn't used, because people didn't go with them. A lot of people call these the Alexandrian cult, meaning that we call them the Alexandrian because they were found in Alexandria in Egypt. You have Codex Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, Alexandrius. I think there's a couple of manuscripts that were quote unquote, and then you have lots of partials, P55, P66, and stuff like this. So Codex Sinaiticus is the oldest complete copy of the New Testament, period. Then you have Vaticanus, which was found in the Vatican Library. So they had these other manuscripts that said different things, but we called them the Alexandrian cult because they took stuff out of the Bible. Stories that we know that predated them, they left out. And I'll give you an example. Like in, let me tell you the thought process, what I'm talking about. So if you're debating a Muslim will say that later Christians added the phrase, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, these three are one. They added that in to the Bible to support a Trinitarian doctrine. And they'll use the example like it's not in Codex Sinaiticus and it's not in Codex Vaticanus. Our oldest manuscript traditions, that phrase is not in there. So the Muslims will say, well, then they use that in an effort to add it in later. So therefore, your guys' Trinitarian doctrine is wrong. But here's the thing. We know that the phrase predated it. You have church fathers literally quoting the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. These three are one. They are reading it before Codex Alexandrius and Vaticanus and Sinaiticus existed, so that they were reading from it. So we know that it existed. The Alexandrian manuscripts took it out. The Byzantine left it in. So also the longer ending of Mark. We know that the longer ending of Mark is biblical. The Byzantine style of manuscripts got it right. Codex Sinaiticus and Alexandrian stuff, they left it out. So the thought process goes like this. A lot of scholars will say, since the Alexandrian is older, it must be closer to the source material. And because the longer ending of Mark is not there, or let me use the woman caught in adultery, because the story of the woman caught in adultery is not there, then Christians later added it in. That's not true. We know that the woman caught in adultery, we have early church fathers literally quoting and saying, no, that the Alexandrian took it out. They took it out because they thought it was not good for their wives to read that story. They thought that there should be a punishment. They didn't like the fact that Jesus forgave this woman who was caught in the act of adultery, and he just forgave her and there was no punishment towards it. So he just said, go your way, sin no more. And they didn't like that. So they thought it was a get out of jail free card for the women to go cheat on their husbands. So they took that part out of the Bible. We got church fathers that clearly quoted that. So I agree with you, brother. Long explanation, but go with the Byzantine and then the Textus Receptus and King James Version of the Bible.
I have a question for you if nobody else was before me.
What's up, brother?
Like I said, I believe in the Bible, and like I said, I find the story of Genesis real interesting and stuff. Like how do as a Christian, how do I prove you outside of faith using like geographic evidence and science to prove that the flood actually happened?
Hydrologic sorting, polystratofossils, dinosaur bone beds. I mean, the flood is one of the events that it was worldwide, right? So it should have the most evidence for it all over the planet. And sure enough, it does, right? I can make a prediction right now that if you're standing on dry ground and not bedrock, obviously, that you can take a core sample of wherever you're at, and that core sample is going to have layers in it. Thank you for the stickers. Appreciate it. That is called hydrologic sorting. We see this in a flood. A flood will sort things out. Like you can buy a little toy at Walmart that's got the different color sands in it, and it's got like an oil or a water inside of a liquid. When you flip it upside down, it makes these layers. That's called hydrologic sorting. And we see this all over the planet. So this shows that there was a worldwide flood.
Now, let me ask you this: Do you subscribe to the belief that that our planet looked totally different before the flood? Because remember they said there was like pyramids on the ocean bed floor. So do you think that what we're standing on is actually high ground mountains, and that people believe in the ocean floor was actually land, or do you not subscribe to that belief?
Well, yes, I do subscribe to that belief, but there's a couple of things that we said there that there's no way that I could possibly know, like pyramids and stuff. I don't know of any pre-flood structures. I wouldn't know. Could there possibly be pre-flood scriptures? That gets into an interesting conversation, but I want to be very consistent in saying that I could not prove that scientifically. I don't know. Some people use Khufu's pyramid because they say that it was a pyramid that was, built to house the biggest pyramid, the Grand Pyramid. Some people argue that it was a pre-flood. It was a pre-flood building. Now, I don't know that, but here's some of the stuff that I do know. All of the other.
Could we carbon date that stuff? Like, couldn't we just
wouldn't
maybe date it?
Nah, you can't radiometric date. Radiometric dating is just, it doesn't give consistent dates. You wouldn't know. And then plus, if it was here and then the flood did happen and it was a pre-flood and it was underwater at one point, then it's going to have leaching and it's going to throw any and all dates completely sideways, right? It's not going to be consistent. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just telling you what they say. I honestly, it wouldn't bother me none if it was or wasn't. But here's what we do know. The Khufu pyramid, they say that it's a tomb, right? But they couldn't find out how to get inside of it. So they drilled a hole through the side and they finally figured out how to get in. There was no treasure in there. Khufu was not in there. It was not a burial chamber. Some of the other pyramids were. There were burial chambers for the king. But this one wasn't. He wasn't in there. There was no treasures. There is no prayers mentioned on the side of the wall. When you go to the Valley of the Kings, they have these hieroglyphics on the side of the walls, the prayers that get them to the next life or whatever. The Grand Pyramid has none of that. It has no hieroglyphics. It has none of that. So why does the biggest pyramid not have any of that if that's what it's supposed to be, but all of the rest of them do? There's a theory that says it was pre-flood and then everybody else was copying off of it. I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. It wouldn't bother me none or not. But to answer your original question, I do believe that the pre-flood world was clearly totally different. God said He made the planet for us to inhabit it. He wanted us to be fruitful and multiply. And now it's like less than 5% of the actual Earth is inhabitable. It's deserts, mountains, and oceans.
Because it's my belief that we really didn't have oceans like that the way that they probably had it back in the pre-flood world. Because I think it says that the fountains of the deep burst open, and then they had the rainfall from heaven. So you got water coming from below, and then you got water coming from above. Yeah. So then I was doing some research where they said they found pyramids on the ocean bed floor. So what if this is just a theory? What if what we're actually sitting on isn't level ground, but it's actually we're actually at high altitude mountaintops, and that the real ground is the ocean floor? Just a theory.
No, I got you. So a lot of those cities and stuff that are underwater. So in the flood model, I can't say everybody believes this unanimously, but it's the flood model. So you had something like a comet come in, struck the earth. The fountains of the deep broke open. Yes, it rained for 40 days and for 40 nights, but the water continued to rise for over 150 days. So we know that the majority of the water come from underneath the crust of the earth. And in Genesis, whether you believe it or not, God said He founded the dry land on the water. So there was a layer of water underneath the crust of the earth. Water goes from underneath the crust of the earth to on top of it. And then that's the worldwide flood, obviously. And then in the book of Psalms, it says that as the waters went off, the mountains arose and the valleys sank down. So you have the waters that will go to the low spots. This will cause the crust to break, literally break, right? So when the crust breaks, you're going to have mountains that shoot up and you're going to have valleys sink down. So this is why, when I talk to atheists that say, well, there's not enough water on the planet to go over Mount Everest. Well, Mount Everest wasn't there. At the end of Psalms, it says the mountains arose and the valley sank down. So these mountain edges that broke and have all these jagged lines are clearly from when the water went off. Now, I can make some predictions based off of that model if it's true. I can predict that most of your mountain ranges on the planet will follow the coastlines, meaning that as the water went off, when the mountains shot up, the mountain ranges should follow the coastlines. And sure enough, it's like almost like 98, 99% of the mountain ranges absolutely follow the coastlines. So this would show, this would help make that prediction true. So
also too, I was doing some research. Is it true that they found organisms that's only found in the ocean on top of Mount Everest?
Yeah, they found clamshells. You got petrified clamshells on Mount Everest. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, and like I said, if I was discussing like with an atheist or something, I'm like, how did the clamshells get there?
Yeah. So the funny thing about it is when people see clamshells, they don't think, because what happens to clamshells when they unalive? They open, and if you're walking down the beach, you might find all kinds of clamshells, but you never find them together. Almost never find them together. So why is it that we have all of these petrified clams in the closed position? Yeah. So in a catastrophic event like a flood, when you get rapid buryment of all of these sediments, then the clam, when it unalived, it obviously couldn't open and then spread out. So it's unique that when we find all these fossilized clams, they're always in the closed position.
And I got one more question. I don't mean to blow your head off.
You're fine, brother. I enjoy it. Go ahead.
Now, I remember when I was in school, and they talk about the prehistoric world with the woolly mammoth and the dinosaurs and all this stuff, and they talked about how big these animals was. And I say, I remember asking my teacher one time. I said, "You mean to tell me animals were big, insects were big, dinosaurs were big, but we wasn't big? Also, we was still the same size." And it's just my belief. I believe that they say that the high concentration of oxygen back then caused everything to grow and be big. Yeah. Wouldn't that go to humans? That humans would be bigger, like on average, than we are right now?
Well, it depends. So here's the thing that you got. Yes and no. So insects would get bigger because they breathe through their skin. So you could put an insect in a hyperbaric chamber, and it will get larger if you grew them in a biodome, right? Because they breathe through their skin, so you're forcing it in. Humans would become a lot healthier, but I don't know about. We might get bigger, but I don't know if we'd get extremely large.
Because if you got like, because it talks about the firmament, so you got the water above the firmament, so the atmosphere is compressed, and that means that makes oxygen more denser, right?
Yeah.
So if the oxygen is more denser and you got more available oxygen in a given space, wouldn't that cause organ tissue to grow?
Yeah.
And make humans bigger?
I can say this: they do have human bones that are bigger. Their skeletons are bigger, but not by that much. But they are bigger than.
You say bigger, like how much bigger? Like 10 feet tall?
About 8 to 10 feet, yeah.
If you want to,
and that goes to my theory that I believe like Adam and Eve and all their descendants and children, but pre-flood were probably like on average, like they say, like the average height of a man is anywhere like from 5'10" to 6 feet or something like that. Yeah. So the average height of a man in the pre-flood world was probably like anywhere from like 10 feet to 12 feet tall.
Well, I don't ever bring this up because I can't substantiate it, but there was claims that. In Mount Ararat, where they found Noah's quote unquote found Noah's Ark, they did claim that they was grave robbers that went through there and stole stuff, and they found Noah's wife evidently, and she was supposed to be like 12 foot tall, and that was the female, and obviously males would have been bigger. Can't substantiate that at all. I never bring it up because it's not something I could prove, but there is that myth, if you will.
Has there been any data to like support like the finding of Noah's Ark and where it landed, like down, like
but
even down to like, because if they was on a voyage, not a voyage, but if they was in an ark and living on there for 40 days and 40 nights, you get what I'm saying? There would have to be like beds. There would have to be some type of
Yeah, there's
some type of artifacts remaining or something from that.
Yeah, and I kind of stay away from that too, again, because it's not something that you can substantiate. And the reason why is because it's in the Turkish government right now. And Turkey's not very friendly with archaeologists and stuff like that. You know, it's a Muslim nation, and the Muslims also believe in Noah's flood, obviously. So they built like a little welcome center down there at the bottom of it. They call it Noah's flood, the resting place of Noah's Ark. Early on, there was some sites went there. I think a guy named Ron Wyatt went there and did some art thing. You can go look at his.
Ron Wyatt's been kind of debunked on a lot of his stuff. That's the reason why nobody goes by him. But there are other
hold on, brother.
Actually said something about it.
Hold on. Yeah. So Ron Wyatt has he has a little bit of a checkered history, but not necessarily towards his sites. Like, for example, you can go follow him through his walk through the Exodus, and it's pretty compelling. And he can't make this evidence up; he's just showing you there. So it's like you can go to where the Exodus is at, where the Bible describes they stopped and got water from a well. You can see the rock that appears to clearly be where Moses struck the rock and water come out from under it. You can see where they built troughs. You can see where they built rock fences for their livestock. You can see the beach because there was millions and millions of people. And the way the Bible describes it, how are you going to get millions and millions of people on a beach? Well, there's only like one spot in that whole mountain range that you could do that. And sure enough, when you go there, you find glass on the shore. Well, God come down and blocked the army with a pillar of fire. And that pillar of fire would have melted the sand and turned it into glass. And clearly that's what you see there. Now, lightning striking sand will also do the same phenomenon, but this would have to strike it in all of these different locations simultaneously because it's not broken. It's all one thing. So Ron Wyatt does have a little bit of a checkered history, but as far as his archaeological discoveries, I would say go look at it for yourself and determine it for yourself. The problem that I have with the Noah Ark stuff is that no one can get over there now to substantiate anything because of the Turkish government. So,
you don't think we could disguise ourselves as tourists and sneak in there and get the evidence?
No, that's
it's a restricted area beyond certain points.
Yeah, and then again, we don't know what it like. So they have drove stones, so to keep a boat steady in the waves, you would tie rocks to the side of it. And that way, if you hit a wave, your boat wouldn't tilt or nothing. You'd have these huge drove stones. So they found what they call these drove stones over there in on the mountains of Ararat, and they're clearly huge, right? They're huge for Noah's Ark. My only thing is like, are they real, or did the Turkish people, the Muslims, wanting to prove that this was real, carve them in there? I just don't know.
What is a drove stone? I'm sorry, I had that's a.
Yeah, it's so the back in the ye olden times when they built ships, that to make them stable, like even the Vikings and stuff, you could put a lot of rocks in the bottom of the ship, right, to keep it steady, because it wants to float on top, obviously. So you need to go down into the water just a little bit to keep it steady. Or you could have what they call drove stones. You take stones, you drill a hole in the stone, you tie the rope through the hole. And then when the ship lifts up, then you have 4 or 5 different ropes holding these heavy stones. The heavy stones would keep the ship from tipping over if it hit a wave.
Okay. Let me ask you, what you think about this? So today, if you look at the world like on a map, there's regions of the world that have more fossil fuel than other countries and other nations and other regions. Yeah. And fossil fuel comes from plant matter and animal matter, and basically, dead unalive carcasses that decompose over time, over a period of time under pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
what if, and this is just a theory on this, like what if during the pre-flood world, since the whole world was inhabited, the same way how people gather in cities and in certain places in mass. What if these places that have majority of fossil fuel were places during the pre-flood world that had a bunch of people that gathered in mass, whether they be mega cities or whatever they be, And then when the flood came and unalived everybody, these places became like the places where majority of the fossil fuel is found.
Yeah, I mean it could be, but all it would take is these huge. In the flood, you had these huge debris mats of plant material and animal material. So if that got buried quickly, and then you have all these other different layers that pile on top of that, then that's going to cause heat and pressure, and then that massive amounts of pressure is going to squeeze all of the oil out of that in no time. So it'll turn it into oil in no time.
So could like these Arab nations like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, could these, like, the reason why they have all the oil, because during the pre-flood maybe they were like mega cities back during the pre-flood?
Hey, get off my throat, bro. Get off me.
Yeah, could be. There's no way for me to determine that or not. All I would say is that clearly that they're standing over what once used to be a lot of vegetation or animal life. Yeah.
So the Saudi Arabia, so you probably said that Saudi Arabia wasn't a desert probably during the pre-flood.
I don't.
Jerusalem was Israel area wasn't a desert until God cursed the land.
I don't think
So,
there's.
so you
I don't think there was any
so y'all
desert.
believe these places like were lush and green during the pre-flood world?
I think the entire planet was lush and green. I don't think that there were any desert places in the pre-flood world.
Hmm.
I mean, because you look at like I said, if you read the Bible, and it describes Canaan as a land of milk and honey, which means it was really beautiful and lush. So now, if you look at it, Jerusalem is surrounded by a lot of desert. So
Do you think that comes from when God started to curse the land?
No, I think.
What's up, man?
What's up, brother? I think it comes from the. I think it comes from now the geology that's taken place. It's just a natural problem that's taken place after the pre-flood. So now you have these mountain ranges that block the water from being able to get to it, and that's why you have deserts in a lot of these places, because you have
You're
a
right.
mountain
Because
range.
rain cannot get there. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a claim I want to make. Creation.
Go ahead,
I
brother.
mean, cut brother off.
No, you go ahead.
And I've been looking into this a little more. We're thinking more into it.
Okay.
I think we're about 500 to almost 700 years away from the rapture.
Okay.
And the reason I think this is because you think about it. Jesus came and started his ministry at the age of 30. He died at the age of 33. He rose in 3 days. I feel like it's clear he had 3 very favorite disciples. I think it's pointing to the 3000s. Now, I'm not accurate. I mean, I don't know when. This is just... And temple hasn't been built yet.
I would go. First of all, I would never put a date on it or anything like that, because honestly, nobody knows. If the temple starts getting rebuilt, I'll start to get a little itchy about it. But I will say this: there appears to be a prophetic calendar. So God likes to do things evidently in 2,000-year increments. So that's why a lot of people are on edge right now, because we're in that 2,000-year increments. So for example, it was 2,000 years, and then God sent the flood. It was 2,000. Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate the stickers. I really do. So 2,000 years, God sent the flood. And then 2,000 years after that, Jesus came. So, and then now we're 2,000 years after that. So evidently he likes to do things in 2,000-year increments. So some people think that it's prophetic as far as a 6-day calendar, right? Because God, he worked for 6 days, and on the 7th day was a day of rest. So the millennial reign will be that 7. If you act like a day is 1,000 years, like the Bible says, then you have 6,000 years, and then you have 1,000-year rest. So that would be the millennial.
Yeah,
Now,
I agree with that. I think
is he doing that? I don't know. I think it's fun math to play around with, but at the end of the day, who knows?
I don't know. Every religious group that didn't try to predict it and got it wrong.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to predict it. I'm just saying, based off what the Bible says, I'm guessing around 3,000. So I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
get more of the 6,000.
The truth of the matter is, he didn't tell us because he wants us to be ready in all seasons.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
now, can I ask y'all? Let me ask y'all this, and this is this goes to like the point with like evolution and stuff. Now, it's my belief. I believe that Adam, since he was the first human, his DNA was the purest and had the most diversity of all the human beings on the planet. So when he started producing children, these children, start having genetic traits of Adam. So what I'm saying is, do you believe that the reason that your genes are a result of your environment, or do you believe that your genes are a result of the genetic diversity that Adam had?
I believe God. You want to ask Christian?
I mean, anybody can chime in. It's just a theory.
Go ahead.
I believe God left a code. I believe God left a very intelligent code in your body to evolve to your environment, and based off of that, that's how you live.
Problem is Genesis 1 says that Adam wasn't the first.
What?
Wait, who was the first?
The rest of mankind.
No, it literally says
Because
Adam.
in Genesis 1 says the Lord said to his heavenly host, "Let us make man, male and female, like upon ourselves, so they can have domain of the earth."
Give me the verse.
I think it's Genesis 1:26, I believe.
I really don't subscribe to that because it says that.
And Genesis 2 is when he makes Adam and Eve for
No, it's just no, it's not.
It's
it's a retelling of the same event. It's like, yes, it is. You go into, you tell the story.
It's not. It doesn't say that,
brother. What you're saying, it doesn't say. That's why I ask you for verse when it says
exactly
stop. It's okay. Let's find out. Let's find out if what you said is exactly what it said. Because you said, so we're going to see if that's what it says.
It doesn't say that.
Nope, it doesn't.
What translation were you reading?
He on teacup. But no, I mean, I believe Adam was the first human being. Eve was the first.
Is the mother of all. This pre-Adamite society is